Welcome to our special edition podcast of CEX Talks, focusing on women's leadership in customer experience industry. Today we'll explore how the CX industry creates unique advancement pathways for women, examine cross-cultural dimensions of women leadership, discuss the societal impact of women in CX roles, and look ahead to the future trends shaping gender equality in our industry. And I'm thrilled to welcome our distinguished panel of HR leaders from StarTech. First, Corinne Mayer, Senior Human Resource Managers with over 15 years of experience spanning hospitality, contact centers in Jamaica. Corinne brings particular expertise in labor relationships, retention strategies, and change management. Corinne, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Then we also have Gabriela Solis, Human Resources Manager at StarTech Honduras, with a law degree and a master's in human resources from Unitech. Gabriela brings a unique perspective on legal compliance and employee relations in Latin America. Welcome, Gabriela.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity.
And then completing our global panel is Mridula Paul, who likes to be called M, Senior Director of Human Resources at StarTech, recently honored as Most Iconic HR Leader by World HRD Congress for her contributions to StarTech Philippines. Congratulations. Mridula's international experience across multiple organizations and also multiple geographies, India, Philippines, brings valuable insights, from a global perspective. Welcome, Mridula.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And then, as you all know, so these are all HR ladies, so I will behave myself today, before I get into trouble. So with that, anything you want to say to our audience, before we get started?
Just that I'm really excited about this. I'm glad that we're doing this. So thanks for the opportunity, Abhi.
No, I'm thankful for you all to take out time. I know you have a lot going on your plate to take out time this morning. So let's start. Let's talk about. We'll touch upon various aspects of women's roles, and their impact. Research indicates that while women make up about 70% of the frontline CX workforce, only about 12 to 15%, are there in leadership positions. So Mridula, given your recognition, as an iconic HR leader, what's your perspective on this disparity? And how have you navigated your own leadership journey?
So, I think it's the environment and the way most of our society, especially here in Asia, are structured. So there's a lot of factors that women drop out from the workforce. Once they get married, they don't prioritize their career as much as their role as homemaker or the responsibilities that they have, as women in the household. So that's when we see women dropping off the workforce and just taking a backseat if not applying for promotions and stuff like that. And it's very natural because it's also what women have grown up watching, seeing around them, and then it's also the expectations that society, their family has, for them. So I think it's important. What I did was, of course, for me. Just being conscious about it, ensuring that I'm aware and this is always a priority for me. As soon as it becomes a priority for you, you start navigating the situation, ensuring you have enough support, post marriage, post children, and really that's what's important because it's about balancing both worlds. So you can't do that alone. You need the help. You need the village. I think that's important, and that's where we see the struggle of women continuing in the workforce.
And you raise an important point. I think support. See, it's not as much. It's all about the family, the men in the society. How does everyone support this entire movement? To do that, right? At home, support from your spouse, from your children. And then are you seeing that change? Because at least I have observed it change across the cultures. Where a lot of programs are there. People's thinkings are changing, and is that making an impact? Do you see the percentage shifting?
Yes, absolutely. You can see the change. I think the age that we are and the access to information that we have on internet, we see women doing it. We see what expectations change, even with a partner, right? Just to give you my example, there was a time when we really needed someone to stay at home with the kids, and we decided between me and my husband that it would be him that would take a backseat for a while because that's just what was required between the both of us, and that's the stand we took. And there were a lot of questions around that with the family and society. They were like, "What's happening? Why this? It's unusual." But I think this generation and even more the Gen Z are really taking that step because they're just seeing that it works for everyone. There's merit in women continuing to work in the in organizations, continuing to be part of the workforce. So I've seen that happen more so now, both men and women really partnering in a way that you can come, because that's the support, right? It's really impossible to do it
Of
alone.
course, of course. And in Gabriela, how does that reflect in for the women's representation in the CX roles in Honduras compared to what your colleagues describe in other regions? Because there's a lot of unique cultural factors which always come into play with each country, with each I would even say micro societies where the role of the women and how people see it has been evolving. So how do you see that and in Honduras?
Definitely, I agree with M. The key factor is always going to be gender roles. Women are increasingly taking on leadership roles, but there is still a certain expectation for women to balance both work and family. That is something that across generations, and even now, Gen Z, as M said, they are opening that pathway to have a change of mind. There is a lot, companies at this time are offering those flexible work arrangements. They are offering leadership development programs, and those are helping women break these barriers that we have come to know and have that growth in our career. Specifically for Latin America, I think women are characterized by their resilience, by the adaptability. It's not that easy, especially in Latin America, but women bring to the table, I believe, more empathy. We are natural problem solvers, especially when we think about how we take care of the family. Women have that people first approach, and that helps them become natural leaders, specifically in the customer service industry, right? Which is an industry that should put people first and find a solution to people's problems. Companies at this time, I think, are recognizing and supporting specifically this talent. And we're seeing more women shape the future, not only in the industry, but I mean, specifically for Honduras, we have a woman president, and Mexico is also leading the way in presidency with women. So it's opening up a lot of breaches, and obviously company wise, but for women itself, we are looking at that and saying, I can do that. I want to try to do that, and recognizing that we do have the skills to do it.
And that's fantastic because what you just said about resilience, about people first. I think that gets reflected from what I know of the workforce you all are managing. It's heavily pivoted towards women, and then that's for a reason, because of the nature of the work, the flexibility it allows, the industry creates. The CX sector has had a significant impact on the economic development in Jamaica, right? Jamaica had been predominantly a hospitality industry. How has the growth of this industry created new opportunities, specifically for women in the Caribbean, and what impact does it have on local communities, especially since you came from one industry to this, so would love to hear your perspective.
That is indeed a fact. And yes, I am a hospitality girl. Spent, a lot of years in hospitality before, transitioning into the BPO space. Yes, Jamaica is leading when it comes on to the BPO and customer experience. When we look at, the jobs that are there, we're looking at about 70,000 opportunities. And of that 70,000, we're seeing where leadership in terms of female, that is less than 20%. We have seen over the years where more leaders, and to the points that both Gabby and Em shared in terms of, nature, nurture, and ladies just stepping out and, taking up space and really do showing that they too have the competence. We're seeing where ladies are taking more traditional roles that were predetermined to be more masculine. In the wider community, you're seeing where technicians, auto mechanics, you're seeing females holding those positions. For example, our national power company, we're seeing roles like linemen. Even though the title says linemen, you're seeing females occupying that. You're seeing those ladies climb those poles and restoring service. So there has been a great shift in looking at what roles are and what females bring to the table. So there are certain roles that we are innately designed for, but we're also showing that there are roles that were more masculine that we are taking on because we do have the competence, we do have the resilience, we do have that creativity. And those ladies before us who have paved the way and broken that glass ceiling, they have demonstrated to us that, hey, you have to work twice as hard just to own that space because we were previously pigeonholed. You need to be in the house, be the wife, be the mother. But one of the things that I would want society to really look at is that being the head of a household, being the wife, being the mother, it's comparable to running a 500 company in terms of the different roles that as the female you have to carry. You're looking at the finances of the house, you're looking at the healthcare of the house, you're looking at all those things. So and those are all transferable skills that we bring into the corporate world. So I really do believe that the tide has shifted and females are taking up space, and we are really paving the way and reaching back to help another one up, because we do believe that as in another 3, 4, 5 years from now, we really do anticipate that we'll see more females taking on leadership roles and transformational roles in different sectors.
With that happening, how have you seen the local communities change for better? What are some of the on the ground things which you observed, which are happening?
Absolutely. Family structures are much stronger, right? Females are going out there, they're income earners. There is not this great dependency on the male anymore. Some families are, led only by a female. So there's a positive impact on that community. And even to add, even in our politics, right now, we have more female representation in our House of Parliament than ever before in our history. So there is a ripple in terms of how females are seen, appreciated, and valued, and what we bring to the table is being recognized. We're being heard. And to M's earlier point in terms of that support, I don't think none of us would be where we are without the support of our male counterparts.
No, great. And if I can take what Gabby just said earlier, in terms of yes, there are unique skills that women brings and strengths to the CX world, like empathy, relationship building. Now, how do you see that translating into how different genders are approaching customer interaction? I would love to get both Corinne, your and Mridula, your perspective on that, to what Gabby had earlier mentioned. So
Yeah, I mean, I think just in terms of multitasking, I think women have do that a lot, right? There are a lot of things going on when you're running a household or even otherwise. I think that when women navigate the world, there are a lot of aspects that one has to think of. There's certain burden that women carry, emotional burden as well. So I think when it comes to decision making in the corporate, you bring that experience in. You think of different perspectives. You resonate with also making decisions about. I mean, we're talking about both genders, right? So you carry that experience and you carry the similar experiences and you bring that to your decision making as well, especially if you're in a leadership position. So it's very important to have women there because otherwise your policies, your decision making becomes really very one sided because traditionally most men have always only seen one aspect of the world or the workforce within the world, but women have seen both in ways of their male counterparts, be their fathers, brothers, whoever, but also running households, seeing what it's like as a daughter, watching their aunts, their moms run a household, and those are skills that are actively imparted to women as compared in comparison to men. So I think that becomes a very key skill in the corporate world.
So let me ask you, all three of you, this. So then, as you are trying to staff up, for a particular type of a role, and then let's say it's a line of business, where you're handling, either a white glove service, or a line of business, where it's all about managing different priorities at one time, handling irate customers. Is there a preference? You say, okay, hey, I think a lady can do this job better, and then maybe we should think of it. Does that difference happen? Does it reflect?
I don't think so. I mean, in the end, when we're looking at someone who's good for a job, it really It's really about who's really, the best for the
Shouldn't we-
role.
I'm just throwing it. I'm just provoking a conversation here. So,
Absolutely, yeah.
shouldn't that be, because and I totally agree. I totally agree that in some situations, I think a woman or a lady can handle that situation a lot better
No
compared to.
way. Yeah, I agree. I think, what happens is when we look at someone for a certain role, we know that this is the requirement of the role. Naturally, the people that come to mind could be women because we've seen, or it's based on experience, and we've seen women handle those things better. So that person very often becomes a natural selection for that role. So it's really getting the best person for the role, but in many situations, it's actually the women because they bring some of those skills with them.
Green,
And
I know you had a big laugh. So, do you have
I,
anything?
I I do because males are more process driven. They are more tactical. They just want to get to the point. And some of the roles that we do have, we are looking for persons who are going to have a little bit more finesse, who are going to be a little bit more focused on the outcome of that interaction. So some of our roles definitely is predisposed to say a female may be better suited. However, we do go through that process to make sure that we're selecting the right person. And even though I mean, even my population, the majority of my staffing is females. However, we do have males doing some of those female roles that we are saying females are best suited. And what we seek to do is to leverage the skills that the women bring, the soft skill, the patience, the empathy, as Gabby mentioned earlier, because that is not something that men naturally do have. And there are situations as well that oftentimes they lean on the females to say, hey, I have this kind of situation, what do you suggest, how do you suggest I do this? So there is a great dependency. There is a great focus on the skills that are innate in females to a lot of the roles that we do provide support for.
Thank you for that. So with that, and then Gabby, so how do you women in your organization contribute to build cultural intelligence? Because we have heard about empathy, we've heard about different skill sets, but at the same time, cultural intelligence in that customer interaction becomes so much important. Uh, and then how do you see that being interweaved into the operations, and then on how women are bringing it to the table?
Well, when we talk about cultural intelligence and diversity, I mean, historically, women have been a part of that diversity and the groups that we can call, minorities. So, just from experience, women are and understand what this diverse type of customers will need or expect from service. We women, whether it's a mother, it's a sister, you can be the cool aunt, or the supportive friend, but instinctively we look out for each other. That's what women instinctively do. So we you mentioned and we repeat the word empathy, but we also adapt and we create those meaningful connections, so of course customers feel listened to. There is a lot more conversation when someone is explaining a problem to you, and that can be through a customer on the phone, that can be through a customer face to face, or that can mean you listening to your team members and understanding what the need is. And when you understand what someone needs, then you can present solutions and not present a solution just for the sake of, there's a problem and I want to solve it for you. No, there's a problem I want to understand, and I can give you an array of solutions, something that's going to work for you and something that's going to work for me as a leader of the company. So it is a clear impact. It doesn't only improve the service, but it also strengthens the relationship between the customer and ultimately the success of the business. When you have people that rely on you as a leader, expecting you to be there for them, they want to go to work. They're not afraid to say, I have a problem, maybe I'll be running late. They are not afraid to share new ideas with you out of fear that you won't take that into account, whether it's taking them for granted or saying, oh, this idea is just not, worth it.
And that is very important, right? The positive reinforcements and acknowledgement and in my mind is the most important thing, anyone can do, to the teams that are working around them. Correct.
Right.
uh,
And not to say that the male counterparts don't have it, but it you can see it more in women. Um, we tend to take the time a lot more to process information when it's giving to us because you were seeking us specifically. So I think that is where the strength is, when a woman is leading a company.
okay, so which brings me to, I would throw it open to all three of you, see, one of the unique aspects I think of the CX industry is breaking down cross cultural barriers. Okay, you all individually, all three of you have worked in different environments, across different cultures. It gives people who are working in the industry, to work across cultures. Uh, in an increasingly polarized world, our industry actually brings people together. Correct. So, how do you develop that cross cultural competence, in people, and how is it helping, uh, for people to then grow, into more bigger, better roles?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like this is something that I think is not just a StarTech culture or way of life, but I really do believe that over the years, I have been blessed to be a part of this team, worked with some phenomenal ladies across the borders, that we have developed a friendship, right? We collaborate. We're not selfish with our knowledge. We lean on each other for best practices. We have a struggle, we reach out to someone that we think is stronger in that area than we are, and we partner together, right? We believe in building each other up because we're stronger together than we are apart, and our individual success is also our collective success. And I think we have a team of ladies that really does pride on that and work towards that, and that continues to manifest. The simplest of tasks, the hugest of project, we tend to have that kind of approach when we seek to collaborate. So M in Fields, Gabby in Hondu. I consider Gabby my neighbor. She's in my back door, and we reach out to each other for anything, right? We support each other because we believe in the overall objective of what it is that we are seeking to deliver on, and that is the success of the organization. So I honestly don't think that borders, limit us in any way. I think it has made us individually stronger in our career walk and in our professional competence.
Yeah, I think it's impossible to work without understanding, because we work with such diverse people, right, from different regions. So it's impossible for us to not to learn about their culture, about where they're coming from, because even if one doesn't make a conscious effort to do so, it happens naturally when you're talking to someone. But I think there are folks who make that conscious attempt. And like I said, we have that information out there. Like, if I'm moving to the Philippines, I need to know what Philippines is like. What are the people like? What's popular here? What are the kids like? So we do that, and you can see once you learn people a bit about the other culture, you realize how much you have in common, and that's what really binds you in creating relationships, with people from different cultures. And just to allude to what Kareen says, we're all part of a group, and we keep chatting with each other. So at times I tell, the other HRS, if, say we have a call and there's someone saying something, I'm like, you know what? I'm translating the Indian. He actually means this. so, so we actually do that, So like I said, it really happens on the job. But I think a lot of us also make that conscious effort to understand, where the person is coming from. Is he sounding, is he being rude, or is he sounding rude, or why is the person talking the way they are? And a lot of that has got to do with culture. In fact, I think, it would be good, we do have formal culture education for our agents who are talking to, customers from a different geo. We should do that. We should have that for everyone across, because especially leaders, we talk to people from different cultures, and I think it's nice to have some kind of training, and emphasize the importance of it.
No, that's an interesting point, which makes me think, and I'll point this question to Gabby. She's been quiet, for last 2 minutes, but So, how do these different communication styles? Do you know what I was just referring to? Hey, let me translate. This is Indian. Different communication style, different language, different accent. Do you see that impacting, growth anyways? And then there's a reason I'm asking that question. Okay, there is this whole right now buzz in the industry about accent neutralization, the technology, and it's a very polarized world around that. There's some people who actually like it, and then there's other groups which are like, why should someone lose their individuality, when they're talking to it, why should you conform, right? Would love to get your perspective, Gabby, and then please, Kareen, and then please feel free to join in.
Absolutely. I think specifically now that you mentioned accents, I culturally, I don't see it as a barrier. I see it as an opportunity to learn. Sometimes we have access to internet, we have access to cable TV. So from Honduras, I have been able to learn about, the different countries and the different cultures, but it's never going to be the same as talking to someone directly and sharing those ideas that both Karine and mentioned, when maybe local law in Honduras states some preferences towards the employee, but it's not the same for Jamaica. It's not the same for Philippines. So we have to expand our mind and listen to what other countries are doing, and hopefully those are best practices that we can bring into the company. When we talk about accent, I know for sure that there is, let's talk about limitations. Sometimes customers, they can be from around the world, and they call us, and if when we do have an accent, they automatically shut down instead of understanding that accent has nothing to do with you being able to solve a problem. Accent has nothing to do with you being able to have a conversation, and a smart one at that.
Exactly.
I think it's and maybe this is going to be a controversial thing to say, but if I have an issue with accents, maybe I should expand my mind. Maybe I should be the one to have that active listening skill that we were talking about, to understand and take the time to listen really to what the other person is
I
saying.
love it. I love that point of view. So
To what M was also mentioning, I have been at the other side of, is she angry? Because Latinas specifically, we tend to be very passionate when we speak, so it often comes off as, oh, she's angry. Why is she yelling? I'm like, no, I'm not yelling. I'm excited. So definitely there is sometimes a need to ask, is can you explain what that person was saying? Or even when there's specific words that maybe is not they are not naturally used in Latin America. Let's say, for example, when we talk about abandonment, and in Honduras we call, oh, this is an abandonment of labors, right? And in another country they can use the word absconding. So when the first time that I read that word, I was very confused, but it took me 10 seconds to look up the word. So it really isn't a problem. It shouldn't be a barrier. It should be an opportunity for me to learn something new.
absolutely, absolutely. Green M, anything to add? Or we can.
I totally echo Gabby on that one. And I've had my fair share of not understanding something. And there are times when I speak with my partners from the East, and some words, because of the heavy accent, I don't get it immediately. And I'll have to reach out. And, sometimes I reach out, whether it's in Teams or an email, just to make sure that I have clarity, because I want to understand so that that communication is effective. And I agree with Gabby. Accent has no bearing on growth. It's not a limitation. I really do think it's an opportunity to expand your horizon, improve on yourself. In our industry, based on the customers that our employees support, we do find that neutralizing our Jamaican accent, even though we're told how beautiful we do sound, it is difficult for the customers that we support to really understand us sometimes. And sometimes when we are speaking in our accent, we tend to go to our vernacular, which are words that they don't understand. So it is important for our business and for customer engagement and satisfaction that we do apply that accent neutralization is just to make that communication process easier on both parties. It's easier for the employees to understand what the customer's issues, needs are, and how it is that they can best resolve it. And, little to no time to get it done. When communication is a barrier and limited by the accent, it does make the situation very difficult, and we may have not very good promotion of our business and our clients. So I really don't think it's a limitation. I think it really does help.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
I agree with what both Gabby and Karine said, and I just want to add that I think these are amazing tools, right? Accent neutralization. One bit is, of course, the understanding part, and like they clearly said, it's not really a barrier, as you just need to get used to it and understand it. The world is open today. But the other bit is also what you spoke about our world becoming really polarized. And when it comes to offering effective solutions, you want to be able to connect with your customer. You want to be able to have some commonality. And at times, there are people who would view a different accent as that's not something that they can work with. So that's when we're not forcing our folks to say, "Hey, put on an American accent or put on a British accent." We're just saying, "You speak the way you do. We'll let AI handle this for you." So it helps the situation overall from whichever aspect you look at it.
Thank you. Tim, thank you. I think that kind of reflects what I was saying. Yes, there's a positive to it, from industry perspective. Okay, but from an individual perspective, the more we open up our minds, the more we learn. Yes, it might take 2 minutes, 5 minutes to adjust, to an action, but if you try it, you understand it, and it's a lot more fun,
Yeah.
that way, because then people are just being natural, as you are interacting with everybody. So talking about, we have talked about, women's growth, we have talked about the industry, and of course, with the CX industry, employing, and empowering, so many women. How has that shifted the overall societies? I touched upon it earlier, but what have you observed, because of the women empowerment, the positive impact in the societies? I would love to, hear, all three of you, because you all work in different geographies. How has that shifted it?
So I can share, in India, I think with the coming of the BPO, the offshoring industry, we saw a lot of women come into the workforce in roles that were so earlier they could only get into corporate if they had a professional degree or with something or had a higher education. That's so certain, there's only certain women that would come in there, right? People who had access to good education and the like. For those who just had, say, a school degree or something, they'd look at customer services in stores and sales and stuff like that. But with the coming of the BPO industry, we've had women get into the workforce for in BPOs, rise up the ranks, and then enter the corporate sector without having a certain professional degree, because we're just looking at customer service and those who are good at it. So that's a huge shift that happened. We saw women leaders, we saw women branch off into different things, and that happened in the last 10 years. It's one of the fastest change I could see in society in the major cities where we had customer service and then BPOs that rose, like Bangalore, Hyderabad, these cities.
I wanted to add to what Em was saying, specifically because she mentions the uprising of the BPO industry. The impact in economy is definitely one of the most it's the one that you can see the most, especially post COVID was a very tricky a moment for women specifically. Most of women left their jobs to stay at home, especially because, again, since we are natural caretakers, and that is also what is expected, most of them were working or staying home looking out for their families. But with the customer service industry making it easier for us to work from home, at the same time those who left their jobs started finding jobs in the customer service industry or the BPO industry. And again, the limitations and the barriers are obsolete because it has opened up for broader applications. I can work from Honduras and my job is in the US. I can work from Honduras and my job is in London, to say an example. So the way that we are financially supporting our family is a game changer, not only because I have the opportunity to provide financially to my family and hence the community, but now I have the financial freedom to invest in myself. I can now reach out to the university that I was trying to enroll in, but wasn't able because maybe I didn't have enough financial means to do so. But I own my finances now because of these opportunities, and I can have both. I can, work part-time connecting in the computer, and I can assist once my family members come back, and I can have the best of both worlds. And when we have that, we have the confidence, we to understand that we can move forward to those positions. I can apply to those positions now because I have the expertise and I have the knowledge, and I gave that to myself, and that creates value. And again, not to be corny.
And that is significant, right?
Yeah.
Investing in self, to be able to do that for yourself is where tidal shifts happen.
Correctly, and that in itself is breaking those generational
Yep.
ideas that we have brought in from, again, generations back, right, where we
Hmm.
were set to fit in a certain mold.
Molds.
and
Yep.
if and if I'm making that change, then I'm teaching my little sister, I'm teaching my daughter, I'm teaching my younger self reflected in society that they can do it too, and I'm breaking that mold, and she will break that mold. And Gen Z specifically right now is breaking a lot of molds. So I think that's the
Yes, they are.
in,
Yes, they are.
in society right now.
I think any
I think these ladies have covered it all. And if you notice, I was just nodding in agreement because Gabby has been hitting all the points. I do agree. And that investment in self and that self-worth that, you're able to feel is a game changer in, how it ripples and impacts your home, your work, your professional environment, and your community. So it's huge.
No, thank you. With that, we're almost towards the end of our segment. If I can hear from each one of you, there is a huge technology shift happening. There's a lot of innovation happening, in the entire industry. So, as a parting thought, what would be your advice, to all the women leaders, and upcoming, women, in the workforce? What should they focus on, and how should they think about the future as they are charting their own journeys? So, we'll start, Corrine, with you.
Sure. I really do think that mentorship is important. I really do think sharing that knowledge is important, reaching back and helping someone out. But I really do think that as we move forward, we have to pay attention to what I call power skills. And, we've been speaking about some of them earlier: the empathy, the resilience, communication, creativity, critical thinking, right? Emotional intelligence, and the ability to collaborate. I think those, as change is constant and it will always happen. If you hold on to those power skill, hone those power skills, irrespective of what the future may bring, you will be able to compete, be relevant, and to continue to grow as individuals and grow the businesses that you do support, and positively impact on those persons you're mentoring to take over from you. The Gen X, they're coming and they are making an impact. And also to be open to new ideas, right? Have an open mind, support those new ideas because, there's value. Everyone has value that they do bring. And sometimes the ideas, I mean, think about where we are now with AI. It started with somebody's idea. So be open to those kind of changes as we move forward.
Thank you, Corrine. M.
Yeah, so I think one of the most important things that corporates and even otherwise one needs to keep in mind is women issues should it's not only about women. Excuse me. So it has to be, women issues should be, or when I say women issues, I mean bringing in women in the workforce, ensuring growth, ensuring them having a seat at the table when it comes to decision making, part of the E team. These should be global issues, company issues, men's issues as well. So we spoke about some of the natural qualities that women have, like empathy and stuff like that. I think that comes from us playing a certain role for generations, and it's really agnostic to gender. So we also need to focus on skills that men can develop. So even though when we are part of the workforce, we don't get cordoned into certain roles that women do really well, because I think either gender can do well. And that's when actually organizations do better, when they have that level of flexibility where anyone can do anything, because we're focusing on skills and we're focusing on what's lacking in each group. Right, so I think that's really important. I mean, just to give an example, I know initially, when I started working and we would have meetings, it was very natural for some of the leaders to say, hey, we need to take minutes, and hand it over to a woman, or hand it over to me. Hey, Em, can you take minutes? And I would jokingly say, okay, I'm the minute maid. Or if we'd have, cutting a cake for someone's birthday, it's the women who, even if they weren't asked, they'd go and make pieces of the cake and give it to everyone. When we're all colleagues there, it wouldn't come from a man. And these are just subtle things that don't really impact work in any way, but they do send out some kind of a message. So I think the messaging about gender equality and diversity has to be really across genders, across these conversations need to go across. And though we've really we've progressed in strides when it comes to diversity, there's really a long way to go, and a lot of more conversations that need to happen, mentorship, role models. There has to be a conscious effort when it comes to including women, including various diverse segments in a very conscious manner.
And you raised a good point. It's like overcoming the bias which we are not aware of consciously. And how do you do that? Because there's a lot of biases which are there, which is so ingrained you don't notice it, but actually observing them and do it. So yes, Gabby.
Well, actually, I was going to mention some of the points that Em mentioned. Breaking the mold, and some things are tried and true when it comes to industry, when it comes to leading businesses, but adding that different perspective and adding a diverse perspective is always going to bring something new. Ideas, they can come and go. Some books have already been written, so we tend to follow those same paths. And again, if it's not broken, then why try to fix it? But bringing in a new perspective, having that female gaze or having that female touch might change certain things in any subtle way, but that can be, when you break a glass and it's a small shattering, it starts trickling and it becomes a bigger broken glass, right? So in a positive way, if we can spin that, when we have those little bits of female inclusion and that diverse perspective, it becomes a tiny idea that can then become a greater and much bigger impact to the company. So obviously that diversity, that inclusion, that um, perspective of having someone that can bring something to the table, a skill set, whether it be all those that we have already mentioned, but also the enhanced problem solving, as mentioned before. It's going to be successful. It's going to bring in cultural knowledge inside the company. It just shifts completely when we have more people, like M said, and like Corrine said, it doesn't have to be a woman, mostly as the topic is women's. When we bring those elements to the table, changes are happening. We are seeing them. So just taking advantage of that, I think it's a smart thing to do.
One small step can be a giant leap. But thank you, ladies. Thank you for joining this morning. I had a great time. And for the audience, I work with these immensely talented ladies, every single day. And if anyone has anything to discuss with them, reach out to them on LinkedIn. I'm sure you will end up more intelligent, after having one conversation with them. With that, we come to an end of this show. Thank you. Until we meet next time.
Thank you so much. We had a great time.